Welcome to Austin Liti Limits, a series where authors talk to authors about books and writing. I'm Scott Simmergren.
And I'm Larry Brill. You know, Scott and I have had our share of successes.
And awards.
His last novel, To Squeeze a Prairie Dog, won 3 book awards. His latest novel, The Benevolent Lords of Sometimes Island, has been getting great reviews.
Larry has won his share of awards too. His latest book is out now, The Printer and the Strumpet. Here at Austin Liti Limits, we're working with our good friends at Book People to introduce readers to our favorite authors.
Well, naturally, during these days of pandemic, we've had to move our author interviews online until the bookstore is up and running again 100%. I recently had a chance to chat with Michelle Cox, the award-winning author of the Henrietta and Inspector Howard series.
Michelle grew up in the tiny town of East Dubuque, where the borders of Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin meet in a place once known as Sin City for its taverns, gambling dens, and dance clubs. Growing up there was considered being from the wrong side of the tracks, but it didn't stop her from getting a scholarship to Mundelein College in Chicago. She has won dozens of international awards for her Henrietta and Inspector Howard series, which is set around Chicago in the 1930s. Think Downton Abbey meets Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries.
Hi, Michelle. It's nice to have you here today.
Thanks, Larry. It's exciting.
I want to start probably with the pandemic. I mean, how has it affected your writing schedule, anything like that? Are you surviving okay?
Yeah, I'm still working, but now, of course, my husband has been working from home since March, which is great that he's still working, but he's been home since March, and the 3 kids have been home, so it's a lot of interrupting and a lot of, dealing with the e-learning and all of that kind of stuff. They're older, but still, they need a little bit of hand-holding. So yeah, it's probably suffered a little bit for sure.
Yeah, but you're doing okay. That's the main thing, right? Everybody healthy and happy.
Yeah, everybody's healthy and happy.
That's
making it through.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife and I both work out of the house. And so, we've been sort of self-quarantining for the last 20 years. It's just.
So this is normal for you.
It's pretty much normal. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the Henrietta and Inspector Howard series as a whole. But I think I want to start with the fact that which came first, your love of the history and that period, or your love of writing, chicken and egg kind of question there.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would have to say my love of the past or the sort of historical fiction. I was always the kid at family parties that was hanging around the great grandparents and listening to their stories. And we used to work in a nursing home, and that I used to love spending time with the residents and hearing all these stories. And I'm a huge fan of classic literature. I think I've watched every period drama ever made. So I have a real affinity for the past.
Yeah. The first book in the series, A Girl Like You, launches this whole thing, and it takes place in a very gritty 1930s Chicago. But then in the second book, you kind of moved away from that and you went off to Clive's, family estate. Was that planned, or did that just happen?
That unfortunately just happened, because when I was writing book 1, I didn't think it was a series. I just thought it was a one-off. And at the time I was trying to get an agent, and I naively thought that writing a mystery would, help my chances. Clearly, I didn't know what I was talking about, but at the time I thought that this was my ticket in. So I wrote, a one-off mystery. But then as I was going along, I thought, I really like these characters a lot, and I really don't want this to end. But on the other hand, I really don't want to write a mystery series about a cop and his wife in the gritty 1930s, Chicago. It's not really my cup of tea. So I had to kind of shift the series to be something, expanded a little bit.
Yeah. When I first wrote my second novel, The Patterer, which actually takes place in 18th century London, I was writing a satire about the news business, which I had just left. And it was interesting that I wrote that and kind of imagine if Ben Franklin invented TV news, what would it look like?
Wow.
Sort of thing. So to me, it's a satire of the news business. And then the next thing I knew, I thought, okay, well, I could see this happening at least as a trilogy. And now I've already got ideas that maybe I think it's going to be a 5-book trilogy. I'm not sure. When you started thinking, okay, well, maybe this is going to turn into a series, what took precedence? Was it the historical fiction? Was it the murder, mystery, mayhem, crime part of it? Or was it the romance? Because you have a really strong romantic story going there.
Yeah.
What happened?
Good question. It's definitely more the historical fiction romance element. I'd say if I had to rank it, I would say it's historical fiction, and then, romance mystery is kind of, at the same level. So if I could repitch this or remarket this series, I would probably try to pitch it more as a historical fiction series with a mystery romance element, because it doesn't really follow your classic mystery formula, and it doesn't follow a romance formula either. So it's kind of just a big mishmash, which I think some readers really enjoy that, but it does make it really hard to shelve it, to market it, to, sort of describe what exactly it is.
Well, and that was a question I had for you as well. Does it make it hard to really gain traction if you are doing cross genre like this?
It is. I think once you find that sort of niche, or you find your readers who really enjoy that sort of cross genre, blend, then it's really golden, because they really enjoy that. And it's something, they say, write what you'd like to read. This is exactly what I would like to read. Something that sort of mixes it all up. I'm not really a hardcore mystery fan, because whenever I do read a book like that, I always want there to be more to the story. I get bored when it's just, the detective trying to solve the case. I'm like, come on, where's the romance? Where are the details? So, yeah, I think it's good when you find that sort of group of people that really love that. And I think I have, but it makes it harder, I think, when you're talking about industry execs or people in a bookstore who are trying to decide where to put this book. It's a little bit tougher.
Yeah. And I get that at the same sort of thing. Well, it was interesting with the last novel, won an award for romance fiction, and I never considered it romance, but I did it mostly on a dare it was Scott Semigren, my buddy who does the Austin Lity Limits here. He dared me to enter it in the romance category, and poof, it won. And now I get I get emails every day from BookBub and those places that, send you an email promoting these books. Mm-hmm. And now I get all these recommendations for these romance novels, and the cover is some guy with, the 6-pack ab thing. And I'm going, that's not really
what it is. No,
that's not really my kind of thing. So let me ask you this. You're a board game junkie.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite board game you like to play?
Oh boy.
But I got to ask.
Right. I would have to say that I really love the big strategy games like Settlers of Catan or Hawaii, Puerto Rico, these really long, that take like hours and hours to play. Those are really my favorite.
Yeah.
But I'll play anything.
Well, there you go. I get it. Tell us
Yeah.
real quickly about your blog. I mean, the idea of Chicago being where you're located, roughly, you spend a lot of time just investigating characters in
Yeah,
Chicago. Is that sort of the basis of the blog? That's kind of how I saw it.
yeah, what it really, the blog started, well, it didn't start here, but it goes back to that time when in the early 90s, when I was working at a nursing home. So the nursing home I worked at is called the Bohemian Home for Orphans and the Aged. So by the time I was working there, of course, there were no orphans, but it was just a fascinating place because were mostly immigrants who were in this home, and they had these incredible lives of what they went through from wherever they were coming from, and then what they endured when they got to Chicago. And so it was my job as a social service person to sort of write their story. And I was supposed to only write like a tiny paragraph for their chart and just giving a little bit of background. And I just would write, because we didn't have a lot of oversight. I would just write like pages and pages and pages and pages. And nobody told me not to. And the staff loved it. They would come up to me in the hallway and they're like, "Oh, we read your latest one. It was so sad." I'm like, "I know, wasn't it?" So I had a little, stack of stories. And so when I was starting this writing career, and the PR company that I had hired said, "You need to have a blog." And I'm like, "Oh boy." So, I would send them samples of things and they're like, "This is a nice little essay, but it's not a blog." So then I finally came up with this idea of, what about using these stories from the past? It kind of, fits together with what I'm trying to do. And
Yeah.
they loved it. And so I crafted it into just writing one story a week, just taking one person and sort of focusing on their life. And they're just ordinary Chicago people that, would be forgotten except for perhaps this story. So,
How do you think you've grown as a writer, as an author, as a storyteller in the course of going through the 5 books of Henry and Clive?
well, that could be a whole hour. No, of course, yeah, I've grown a lot. I've grown so much. I really didn't know what I was doing when I wrote the first book. And I had written a book before that one, and now, I thought it was great and everything, but obviously that was my practice book. So every book I write, I feel like I become a better writer, and I've hired different editors over the course of the series, and I've learned a lot from that. And it's been a while since I've written any in the Henrietta and Clive, because like I said, I've written these 2 other books, and now I feel like, these 2 other books are like, head and shoulders above the series, but I can't really say that. But yeah, definitely it's been hard, but I think that I'm getting better. I hope I am anyway.
So tell us about what these new projects, the new project you're working on now. Give us a little more information about that. And then did you have to change your writing style, your prose style, or anything like that in order to make that transition?
Um, I think the only thing that I've really, and the second one I'm still in the middle of edits, and I think that the thing that I've had to do to change is, like I said, to not, my novels tend to be sort of like a setup. So I'm setting up this world, and then, by a certain point in the book, then we really start to move and the action really starts. I've had to learn not to do that. With these 2 new projects, I've really tried to start, with a bang, and the story just goes. So that's a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
So just going back to the first part of your question, both books are again set in the past in Chicago, because they're based on, one of these stories that I heard. The first one is in the 30s, Chicago South Side, and you have a nurse who's been fired from her very prestigious hospital job, and now she's working at a bad girls' home, which is a home which really existed and is
That's a good way to put it.
a home for pregnant women or pregnant girls. So we have her. We have a backward girl who ends up living there. She either can't explain how she got pregnant or she won't explain the circumstances surrounding that. And then we have a rich socialite who's been committed to a sort of wealthy women's asylum for being depressed when she lost her baby at birth. So that's the setup for that story. And you've got lots of twists and turns and things going on.
Well, we're
there.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
All right. So now is the time where we get to do the Austin Liddy Limits lightning round.
Ooh, fun.
Are you ready for that? It's something that we stole from inside the actor's studio, but we don't feel really guilty about that because they stole it from a French journalist who stole it from Marcel Proust, who probably stole it from Plato. So it's been around forever.
Wow.
Anyway, 10 questions, short answers. It doesn't have to be a single word, but we don't want to go all off on them because we have 10 questions we have to answer. So are you ready?
I'm
Lightning
ready.
round.
Ready.
All right, here we go. Number one, first question. What's your favorite word?
I would say my favorite word would be dessert.
Dessert. Good call. What's your least favorite word?
Okay, my least favorite, well, besides certain naughty words, I'll say it's a phrase actually. It's really a pet peeve when people say anything and everything. Like you don't need to say both, just say one. So
good point. What turns you on?
I'm sure you get this all the time, but really creating. And it doesn't just have to be writing, but I realize that I've been doing this all my life and I finally found the niche that I was supposed to be in that for that creativity to kind of come out. So I think that would be my number one turn on is creating.
What turns you off?
Oh, that one's harder. I would say victim mentality.
Interesting choice.
Yeah.
What is your idea of happiness?
There's so many ways you can answer these questions. I would say, you know what? I recently had a birthday and that was kind of my perfect happiness. Some great food, some great wine. I did some writing in the morning and then it was a whole day of board games. So perfect day.
Who is your favorite author?
That's easy. Charles Dickens.
Charles Dickens. That's a good, I think I could have predicted something close to that at least.
Yes.
Well, if Charles Dickens is your favorite author, if you could be any character from a novel at any point in history, who would you want to be?
Well, I know I said Dickens, but I would say Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
I just, she's smart and sassy and she's so witty and I would love to be able to speak like her.
I get that. Jane Austen type,
Yes.
Yeah. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? If you couldn't be a writer, or anything related to that, what would you want to do?
Well, if it's like a real fantasy, then I would be a master gardener. Preferably working at Chatsworth, the Chatsworth estate in Derbyshire, England. That would be heaven to me. Yeah.
Didn't you go there in one of your novels?
Yes. Good.
I thought so.
Yeah. Yeah. They go into that area on their honeymoon.
So you have seen the best of the best there.
Yes, I've been there twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband is from England, so we've spent a lot of time touring around these like huge estates, and that's my favorite part is touring the gardens.
Great. So what profession would you least want to attempt?
You know, I think that I would hate to be a funeral home director. I don't know if I could handle that level of grief day in and day out. So
Yeah.
that would be the worst.
All right, our final question. If heaven exists, what would you like God to say to you when you get to the check-in desk?
Oh boy, well, this could be a long essay. I guess I would like him to say, "You made it. Welcome back."
Great.
That's it.
Michelle Cox, thank you very much for being with us here on Awesome Legal Limits.
Thanks for having me, Larry. This has been really, really fun. I enjoyed it.